This meeting is being recorded.
If you've ever started a business or, just wanted to make it in your career or even started a podcast like we did, you know that branding is essential. Like gone are the days where you had a choice of whether or not to brand. With social media, the stakes are high for putting that best face forward, for telling your story, for making sure that people connect with you, that they buy with you, that they hire you, or whatever it is that you want them to do. And today's guest is helping women do just that in their businesses through her photography. So we're excited to have the original member of the I Come As One 10K community with us, Shawn Shepard. She is the owner of Triple S Shots, an Atlanta-based photographer, and all of those beautiful images you see of us on Instagram and on our website can be attributed to her. She is the master behind the lens that helped bring I Come As One to life. So this is a fun day for us to hear her story. She has so much to tell us about her journey to being an entrepreneur, overcoming imposter syndrome, and just things that resonate with Black women. It'll be extra fun today because we have two Shawns, the exact same spelling. So if you want to pause right now, head on over to YouTube to see us on video so that you will keep up with the conversation. So with that, welcome, Shawn.
Hello. Hi, Shawn. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on the podcast. This is my first podcast, y'all.
Really? Now we're honored.
So I'm super excited to be here and to talk and, catch up.
Yes. Well, thanks for sharing that because we both have a special place in each other's hearts now. You've helped us launch and we're helping you share your voice. So it is a win, 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 win. So before we get into your story, just tell us about who you are and why you have undertaken this important work of helping women bring their brands to life.
Okay, so I am Shawn S. Shepard, owner of Triple S Shots. I'm from originally Savannah, Georgia. I am the queen of karaoke. And I tell my clients I am your bona fide, built-in best friend / cheerleader. I love to see people win. I love to see people elevate themselves, whether it's on a personal level or in their business level. I just feel like God put something in me to want to see people win. And so that's what I have been doing with my photography is I've been taking people from one level and we have together been elevating their brand. And it has been way more fulfilling than I ever could imagine. I did not know that I was going to become people's accountability partner. I was going to become a counselor for some. I was going to become a shoulder to cry on, an ear to vent to. It has just been exciting. And I really appreciate the introduction because women have definitely been my number one supporter. I never said that I was like a woman's photographer, and I do have some male clients and I'm always welcoming the guys, but it's been the women. Okay.
We comment.
It's been the ladies who have showed up and showed out for me and my brand, and I'm a girl's girl. So I love it. I'm here for it. And hey, that's me. That's a little bit about me.
Yes. It's our time. We're claiming
it. It really is. It's not trying to go off on a tangent, but like the moment I changed my advertising criteria to women only, because I had it split, but the moment I changed it to women only, my business skyrocketed. Like it just went through the roof, and it was not, I just took a chance. Like, let's see what happens. But it just like women right now are just doing the dang thing. I won't use profanity. My mama walking in soon. But we're just doing the thing. We're breaking records. We're breaking strongholds, a generational curse. We're stepping out on faith. I don't know. I just wish our counterparts would kind of catch up a little bit, but that's another show. That's another conversation.
Yes.
That's another conversation for sure. So I'm curious, like before we get too far into things, can you kind of tell us about why photography, right? Like where did this come from? How did this passion develop and how did that get you here today?
Yeah. So photography for me was one of those things that was just always in the background of my life. So my uncle was a professional photographer. My dad was an avid photographer. I mean, we literally have thousands of photos that he printed because he was old school. So he had the film, he did the whole shebang, and so we have albums upon albums of photos. And I'm sorry, I think uncle.
Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right. So Sean, before we get a little bit further down into the details and story of how you got to where you are today, can you tell us a little bit about photography? Like why photography? How did this become your passion and bring you to where you are today?
Yeah, so photography has been one of those things that it's just kind of been in the background of my life, my whole life. So my uncle was a professional photographer, and my dad he was just so avid about photography. He literally, like, we have albums upon albums of printed photos because he's old school. So he worked with the film, with the darkroom, with the whole shebang. And he took pictures of us like we were models and we were just his kids, and it was just always there. Never paid attention. I know now how like significant it was, but back then it was just like, oh, there was dad with his camera again. It was just one of those things. And so I somehow or another got interested in old school cameras. I think he gave me one of his old school cameras. And so I thought I could create a collector's, I could start collecting cameras. And so I started, and eBay had just gotten like really big. And so I was like, ooh, let me see if I can find a camera on eBay. Never bought a camera from off eBay, but I ended up buying from somebody off of Craigslist a camera, and I just started shooting with it. And then my pastor, she was like, would you like to take photos at church? And I was like, sure. And it was the setup because my pastor is actually a media like specialist. Like she's been in radio, she's been in TV, she's been in everything. And like I don't think she necessarily knew that this is what this was leading to, but I literally got a hands-on training from the best of the best, and I didn't even know it. And she taught me, how to pose people, how to conduct business, she didn't teach me the technical side of the camera. I had to learn that myself. So YouTube University, me and YouTube, we were best friends. Okay. I was on there, I was Googling how to do this. What does this mean? Da, 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 da. But she taught me the human aspect of business. And then a coworker of mine booked me for a headshot session, paid a whole $50.
Oh, all right now, big money, first gig. I see you.
Bring that.
They're calling myself a professional because they say if you get paid, you're a professional photographer.
Absolutely. So receipts.
Professional. And it's been history ever since then. I've tackled every single genre that I could. I realized that I love doing weddings. I love working with and I don't mean this to offend anybody, but I love working with regular people. Like I wasn't seeking out the models or just the people who were in the industry. I like to showcase everyday people because I feel like they're just as significant. And then I realized that I really have a passion for working with people who are in business, entrepreneurs, and organizations. And it's just been evolving ever since.
Got it.
You're giving me goosebumps. Like you're hitting on all of the things that I Come as One represents, because you started by talking about your dad, and we know that 10K by now refers to like the ancestors and people who came before us, and those who are in our community around us, how you have to be the accountability partner and the counselor, and all of those things again just reinforces community. And then the piece about everyday people, we started off by saying that this is our time. So the beauty of social media is that anyone can be anything, and they can create any image. So with your role as sort of the not just the photographer, but almost the crafter of that image, is so critical to almost like liberation, which we talked about in a previous episode as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be a part of it. I didn't even know it.
You connecting the dots.
Yeah. So as you're going into this space, right, and you are looking for those entrepreneurs and those everyday people, and building your clientele and getting your business off the ground, how did you ever question yourself and your talent? Was there any of that imposter syndrome, right? I think as Black women, we all have those moments where we feel and we question ourselves, are we really ready to do this? Was I ready for that wedding? I know you want me to do this and you trust me, but do you ever have that moment of, should I take this job or am I ready? And what did that look like? Like, how do you overcome that?
Yes, so probably I'm gonna blame both of my parents, and my mom here to me, so I will choose my words wisely.
Okay.
But I'm gonna blame both of my parents, because I have always had this just random amount of confidence to try new things and just jump out there and put myself out there. But the problem is that the imposter syndrome comes in after the fact. So very seldomly, if someone presents me with an opportunity, will I say no? I'll immediately say yes, right? When it came to the photography, when it came to my coworker asking me to do his headshot, I was like, yeah, I could do it. Camera for 2 seconds. Yeah, I could do it. When my pastor asked me to do photography for the church, I was like, sure, I'll try. When I did my first wedding, I was like, yeah, I'm a wedding photographer. Hadn't done a wedding yet, but I'm
gonna be one today.
Do that. When I got fired from my job, I said to myself, I'm going to do photography full time. I didn't have a near client. I have a client. But I said, yeah, I'm going to do this full time. And that's a good trait to have for some. But for me, it was a little dangerous in the beginning, because imposter syndrome plagued me really my whole career as a photographer. And that first year was the toughest ones, because I had no job, but I still had all the same bills. And every morning it was like, it felt like the devil was on my shoulder to wake me up and say, hey, you failed already. Like, you can't do this. Who do you think you are? And why do you think that you're capable of doing this? What do you have to offer people? And, it kept me down, and it stopped me from, I would have these great ideas, but then I would immediately self-sabotage myself because of that imposter syndrome. So I would go from, yeah, I can do it, to, yeah, right, you can't do it, to, okay, well, instead of making these calls, I'm just going to get on social media, because that's where my comfort, is, right? Instead of making these calls to these, 10 prospects, right? Yeah. So I feel like business could have flourished. Even it could have flourished a lot faster than it did. But even the branding session subscription that we'll get into a little bit later, that dropped on me 2 years ago. And because I had never seen any other photographer do anything like that, I said, surely I got this wrong. Surely this is not a good idea. Who's going to really understand this concept? And even if they do understand the concept, why would they agree to meet with me once a month for 12 months and pay me once a month for 12 months? Who would agree to do that, you know?
Right.
And it wasn't until, I don't have like a moment where things clicked for me, but I will say over time, that imposter syndrome, you have to like tick at it, like keep at it until it kind of finally begins to crumble. It starts off as a boulder that stops you from, moving forward in your life. But if you just I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you keep hammering at it, right?
Yeah.
So do something and it'll go successful. And it's like, okay, I did it. And the next time you reach an obstacle, you'll remember the one time that you did it before, and then it'll encourage you to do it again, right? And then eventually you'll be able to overcome that negativity, that voice in your head that's always telling you that you can't do it, because now you have the proof to back it up. You can say, well, I did this, or like once I booked my first subscription service person, I was like, okay, if one person did it, I could get a second person to do it. And then once the second person did it, I was like, oh, snap, I could get 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
It played me, but nervous to this day. Like even now, like I'm starting to increase my packages and increase the price. And like the first thing I think is, nobody's gonna pay that. Not you. Maybe if you were like David, what is his name? Oh, I can't think of the photographer's name right now. But we just gonna say Joe Schmo. If you were Joe Schmo,
Annie Leibovitz.
Yeah, you shot all the celebrities, maybe people would pay you that. But nobody's gonna pay you that, little black girl from Georgia. You know what I'm saying? So even now it's still, but now because I have been working at it, and because I have, increased my relationship with God, and I have worked on that, and I have worked on getting to know who Sean is and what Sean will go for. The fact that I even have a niche now, and I know who I'm for and who I'm not for, like gaining that type of confidence has definitely helped me against that imposter syndrome. That was a really long answer, but I hope I answered your question.
Good answer.
You did answer that question. And I think you made a point. Just sometimes you just got to stick to it to figure out, will it work? And even if you think it's not going to work, how do you know if you don't try, right? You just know it's something you have to try. And as long as you're putting it out there, it's just an option, somebody might buy it. I know I've seen where, as Black women, you get your hair done. And one of the people I go to for like my braids and locks, she had a package for the year. And I'm not going to say how much it was. I was like, oh, absolutely not. What is she talking about? And then I stopped and I did the math and I was like, well, actually, that might be a good benefit to have. It just seems like, sticker shock at first, but when you come to branding yourself, it's an investment. And it's something that some people realize the benefit of it long-term for what they want to do. And I think that was a good, identification from you to say the market could potentially use this and benefit from it.
Yeah. The one thing switched my frame of mind, because it's all a mindset, right? I went to this conference for Black women, and the room was filled with women who were millionaires, six-figure earners, who had businesses upon business. And I was actually gifted a ticket to go to this 3-day conference, and the tickets were like $1,500 plus. And my boss at the time, she bought the ticket but couldn't go to the conference. So she's a really big advocate of education. So she saw it as an education opportunity. And so she said, hey, do you want to do it? So I was like, sure, whatever, like, I didn't know what I was going to. I didn't look it up. I didn't research it. I just like, okay, I'll be there. And I even had an attitude because the first day was on a Friday. And I was like, she taking up my whole weekend. But when I got there, it was life-changing. And to see other women that look like me, talk like me, like they literally played Juvenile, back that thing up, and the women were backing that thing up.
Love
but
to
then,
see it.
then they sat down and they was talking business and strategy. And I was like, I belong, And it's so important. Representation is so key, right? When you can see you in a thing, you can start to say within your brain, okay, I can do that too. And so being in that environment, the ladies, they kept talking about raise your price, raise your price, raise your price. And I was like, but I'm already charging, XYZ. And they were like, raise your price. I raised my price that weekend and booked my first client like a week later with the new price. And I haven't looked back since. But it's just to show you that, like, no matter what you think about a service or what you're offering people, somebody, if you see the need and the market responds to that need, then know that it's worth it. Like, you're worth it. I was putting pressure on myself to charge something that I would pay, but I'm not my ideal client. I know how to take the pictures. My ideal client who don't know how to take the pictures, who don't know how to pose, who don't know how to brand. So for me, it was like, I would never pay what I'm charging folks, but I don't need my service. So I had to get out of that frame of mind that, I should charge what I should pay. So it's a whole lot of unlearning. It's a whole lot of unlearning when you get into business. And one of the things that I help my clients through is the unlearning. I have to explain to them some things like, where you were was good. It was fine. It was that season in your life. But where we're going to take you is somewhere. And that can be very uncomfortable. The conference that I went to had a training afterwards, like a course. And the course was like, with all said and done with tax and stuff, it was like a $3,000 course. I had never paid $3,000 for anything, and I bought a house. I was literally in tears with my debit card walking to the counter because I was like, I can't believe I'm about to spend this much money.
Well, we need the info for this course and training to put in the show notes.
We'll put that in the show notes for sure. You mentioned mindset a couple of times. You talked about unlearning a couple of times, and keeping with the conversation on imposter syndrome. I view that as a form of oppression. Imposter syndrome is a form of oppression. It's the reason you don't hear white men talking about it, and I think it's one other way that further marginalizes people of color. And as Black women being in that intersection, we're even further marginalized. So it's part of the system already that kind of works against us. So you're right, it takes that chipping away, it takes the community, it takes all of those things because it's at the institutional and societal levels of how it's been ingrained to us. And it's another way I think, to keep us in whatever quote unquote is our place by gaslighting us to think that we are not somehow worth what we are. So that's such a great point.
Thank you for that. I never really would have thought of the oppression side of imposter syndrome, and that's where it kind of stems from. I never put those two together, but you are absolutely right. And thank you for reeling me in, because I was going off on a tangent.
Now it's all relevant. It's all relevant.
connected.
But just thinking about my dissertation work and things like that, digging into it scientifically and seeing what it does to people, that's the way that I've started to view it, is that it is another layer, yet another layer that has been designed to work against us.
Very good.
I wanted to see and I think it might be a little delay on my video, but I wanted to, you've spoken a little bit about like noticing where that is in your clients. And so I remember also listening to you on live and just, the work that you try to do, helping people sort of participate in their image and how people experience them around branding. And so I wondered, how do you work with your clients when someone comes and you can kind of tell, like, man, you look amazing, but they don't feel it, or someone's going to enjoy this, but they're questioning it. So I wonder, like, how do you work with that with your clients?
Mm-hmm. That is a very good question. And to me, that is my secret sauce. And and I'm trying to figure out so I can bottle it up and sell it. But, the beginning of the process is all about communication. We're having multiple conversations prior to our first session. We're getting to know each other, right? And I'm asking them questions like, send me inspirational pics, send me words that are the descriptive words that you want to describe your brand or your business. And I'm really picking their brain first, but I'm also keying in on insecurities. I'm paying attention to negative talk that they may have, self-negative talk that they may have, and I'm really paying attention to, like, what is it that they're saying about themselves? What is it that they're saying about their struggles, whether it be in their business, whether it be in their own personal life, right? So, and another thing that is, I guess, a part of my personality is I never want to force Sean's personality on anybody else's brand, right? So I'm very, very careful to not allow people to say, well, what do you think? Or, what do you think it should be? How do you think it should look? I have a lot of people that I've worked with, and I'll be honest, some of them I've had to tell them that this is not the service for you because they haven't quite figured out their brand's identity or their brand's story. And it's really crucial for any brand, new or old, to have their brand identity and their story. Now, we can talk through it so that I can help you figure it out, but it's really hard to create content if you don't know that information first, right? So if they don't know that information first, I'm asking them, why did you get into business in the first place? Who do you want to serve? Why do you want to serve those people? Who are you as a person? What do you care about? What are your values? What are your goals? And then we can create a brand around that, and we can create content around that. If a person is quiet and docile, then I'm not going to have them jumping around, doing the Harlem Shake at a photo. It don't make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's something that I would do. But
doesn't that surprise you all? We didn't get that vibe when we were all together, did we?
Sure
I match people's energy very well. And so Fatima is very business. She's like, these are the plans. Be here at this time. I have this figured out. I have this. So I had to put on my Fatima hat and was like, okay,
You don't know how much they already joke about that as it is.
Yeah,
so
100%.
you picked up on that very quickly.
When I'm in work mode, my work mode and my personal mode, it's not that different. But especially when I'm dealing with technical and discrepancies and different things like that, like I'm zoned. I'm in the zone.
Mhm.
But as far as like working with my clients, I want to make sure that they're comfortable, that they're having a good time. You ladies have huge personalities already. You
Yeah.
know you want it. You know the look that you were going for. So I was just there to capture it. But if you were a group of ladies that didn't know what you wanted, you didn't have, big personalities, you were a little quiet, a little shy, a little timid, then, I would have done things a little bit different, obviously. But I didn't have to do any of that with y'all. I just showed up with a camera. They had the music and the bubbly flowing.
We
Just
really did.
a little warm. That's about it. Just, a little warm.
We
Had
come
the-
together well.
Oh, the edges.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
please don't remind me. Please don't
Edges and
remind me.
eyelashes. That's another episode. Edges and eyelashes.
edges and eyelashes. Yes, that took us.
Oh, I love the title. Like, seriously, that
Write
becomes
that
a
down.
whole thing. Like when you talk about the workspace and how you show up and what is deemed acceptable, edges and eyelashes it's a conversation.
Let's work on that. Let's
I'm
work on
writing
that.
it down actually, because it's gonna happen,
Yes.
guys. So when you
But,
see
but
that,
Sean, so you would say, would you categorize your business as still being young?
Yes.
Yeah. So just in this fairly short amount of time, going from getting fired, which we could probably take another episode to unpack, but getting fired, finding yourself, getting that divine intervention from your pastor and from the boss who gave you the ticket. Like, what are your biggest lessons learned or your pieces of advice in that time or from that time?
So I don't think there's anything particularly special about me and what I'm about to say, which is we all have an inner voice that tells us that you can do it, keep going, try again, get back up. And usually a really small voice, but it's there. And I would say as you're on your journey, no matter if you're at the beginning, middle, or close to the end, tap into that small voice, hone in on it, listen to it, because the noise is going to get louder and louder and louder and louder, and it's never really going to shut up. But that still quiet voice on the inside of you that's telling you, go talk to that person, go tell them about your business, or get on the podcast because people need to know who you are. or whatever it is. Listen to that small voice. It's always there. Even when we can't hear it, it's still there. And I would say that's the number one thing about me and my business is that when I was at my lowest, when I was just starting, when I started to get clients, when I pivot my business from weddings to branding, I had to listen to my inner voice. So that has propelled me to keep going, to make good decisions and to make bad decisions. But at the moment, bad decisions aren't always bad. What I've learned is that every bad decision, which I talk about on the live that I think you all saw before I requested to be on here, I made such a bad decision to not take a job when I had just lost my job. But that whole situation, it completely turned my life around, and it gave me grit. It gave me endurance. It gave me the tenacity that I needed to keep going, even when the odds were against me. So I guess those are my two things. Listen to the small voice on the inside of you, and don't take bad things, outcomes, situations as really bad. Practice patience, because that thing will turn around before you know it. It will become the best decision. What I thought was the worst decision of my life ended up being the best decision of my life.
I love that.
Yes.
Great takeaways.
That is wonderful.
I feel like I need to sign up for a course.
I know, right? Motivational, how
Yes,
to
we're
kick
gonna
off your
get to
business.
Yeah.
Find your niche with Sean.
I know. So are we saying that she has a speaker reel in her future? This is the beginning of your speaker reel. Don't forget about us when you do your TED Talk, you know.
Okay, I'm gonna say yes, but then I'm gonna be like,
How do I do this?
No, come on back. Come on back out of that. Don't be oppressed. I love the part about the still small voice. And if I could add, just to trust it when you hear it. I was working with a coaching client who was considering a big move to a different city and just saying that it might not work out. And I said, well, what made it work out before? Because she had already moved to another city before. And she was like, well, I listened to my voice. And I had to ask, like, do you actually trust yourself? Because if you do, then you can do it again. Yeah. So I think sometimes even when we get the message, we ignore it or we refuse it, or we still tell ourselves that our gut can be wrong.
Yeah.
So that is so profound.
I want to add one more thing to that, because we're in this age of entrepreneurship, right? And business owner. And I do realize that that's not everybody's story, right? Yeah. And that's everybody's path. Do not quit your job, because
disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Being a business owner is a 24/7 type of thing, and it's not for the faint of heart. But I do recognize that being in corporate America and being on a job is not for the faint of heart either. They're both struggles. There's just different struggles. So for anybody who's still on the job, who may have a side hustle, or if their job is their only means of making income, what I want to say to that is that still voice still goes to you too. Okay. And I worked in corporate America for years, and there were so many times that I felt like, am I crazy? You know, like, is it me, Jesus? Is it me? And
am I?
No shade to anybody if this doesn't apply to you, but some of these white men will have you looking and feeling as if you are just clueless. You don't know what you're talking about. You're immature. You're defensive. You're all of these negative things. But there's that small voice still is there telling you, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
You're not crazy. You're not you're intelligent. You know what you're talking about. There's still a still voice for everyone, no matter if you decide to take on that 9-to-5, or if you decide to take on multiple businesses or anything in between. Just understand that, like, you're not crazy. People will try to slight you. They'll try to humiliate you in every arena of this life. And so I just had to make that disclaimer.
No, that hit home for me. That was 3 days ago. I literally hung up from a meeting and I literally sent someone in that meeting. I was like, am I crazy, or did that just completely pivot mid-meeting? And they were like, no, it really did happen that way. And I was like, I cannot believe that I was feeling like that and doubting myself and thinking like, am I okay? Do I need to get my ears checked? Did I say something? Did somebody else say something? And that's happened too many times, I think, in corporate America. And to your point, Sean, I think people forget that 9-to-5 isn't always better. It's just what works for you, but understand cons in both situations. Academia, corporate America, entrepreneurship, whichever route you're taking, it's going to be a battle.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. It makes me think about, just it goes back to your point around, imposter syndrome. And, when you don't have people there that look like you, when you don't feel like you have a community in a certain space, then those words can settle with you. Those criticisms, those reactions can settle with you in a way that will make you question, that will make you defensive. And you can see that in entrepreneurship, you can see that in corporate America, in government even. And so I do appreciate you sharing some reflections around that. And I also wanted to, you talked a bit about investing in your skills, and whether that was taking a class, the hard 3,000, the tag that it was on your wallet, all of those good things. And so I just wonder if you could speak a little bit more about investing in your company, in your brand. And I mean, because when people take on your services, they're investing in their own brand. And so I just wonder if you could speak a little bit more about that before we wrap up here.
Yes, and I will be brief. So with the investment part, let me first say that if anybody has hard time with investing, it's me. The one that be like, I could do this myself. I could figure this out. I could Google this. I could, When I hired my first retoucher, when I tell you my whole world changed, I sent photos. In 2 days, they sent it back. I sent it to the client. The client was excited. I did 1,000,002 things in those 2 days by just sending my work to the editor for them to send. It was like, I done cracked the code to life. When you
Outsource.
when you invest,
I feel the same way about Instacart.
Oh, absolutely.
and I was so, it's like Grubhub, Instacart, and Uber Eats. I ain't gonna do that.
Okay.
Child. Anyways, get to
Pick
my
up groceries the same way. You be like, I need to shop.
No, we have this false sense that we can figure it out, and if we don't figure it out ourselves, we're less than. We're less of a business owner. We're less of an employee because someone had to either do it for us or show us how to do it. But that is a lie and a trick from the enemy. There is nothing wrong to investing in yourself, to either educate yourself so that you can now serve people with more information that you didn't have before, or to invest in yourself by hiring somebody to do something so that you can do the things that you thrive at. And when we spend time doing the things that we either enjoy or we're really good at, think about how many more people we can serve, how many more clients we can have, and how much more money we can make. So investing in ourselves, whether it be for educational reasons, learning a new skill, getting a certificate underneath your belt, whatever that may be, or just learning how to self-care. It's okay to find a course or a coach or a class that will teach you how to sit your behind down, because you don't know down. You don't behave with your laptop
I love it.
on the beach. Sometimes we have to learn as Black women, especially women of color, we have to learn how to unlearn some of these lies that the world has placed on us that we didn't ask for. So it's okay to put your money towards that. And because what you're doing, anything I invested in has come back to me. Everything that I have invested in, everything I have put in my money into or my time into has come back to me in some sort of way. So never think you're just throwing away money. Are there crooks out there? Of course. Do your research, right? But in a generalized way, we're talking about real people who are really trying to help you get further along. Do it. You can't learn it. Why would you spend a whole weekend trying to learn how to make a website when you can spend 2 seconds to pay somebody else to make it for you?
Amen.
Absolutely.
And that's why we have our digital.
Shout out to Lauren.
Lauren is a godsend.
Yes.
I love Lauren. If I could take Lauren from y'all.
We will put her business information in the show notes.
Utilize her services though, absolutely, because I've utilized her already on my own personal LLC and business ventures update. So
Lauren, I'm gonna call you, girl. Call you.
Yes. So my takeaway from that, Sean, too, was the return on the investment. So while we are looking at a mindset shift, while we're unlearning, we are so trained to focus on the investment, how much it's going to cost, whereas now we should be focusing on how much am I going to get back. And even with that situation you mentioned with a crook, even if that does happen to you, you will still recover it all. We touched on a word today, so we can say that we will recover it all.
Yes.
But
Well, that's good there.
it's like a
As
Gucci
we
bag,
say in the
right?
South.
We'll pull out that credit card for things, and because we know that Louis Vuitton bag is going to last 30 years, or we could pass it down to our children or whatever it is, but we haven't quite, or we don't always see knowledge or other things or our business or ourselves the same way. So just making that transition to focus on the return on investment. And the one thing that we have to get to is, how can people work with you? How do they work with you? What are you offering? And, what can they expect from you in the next year or so?
Well, apparently I'm a speaker coming soon.
TEDx, coming to a TEDx stage near you.
Absolutely.
Please, you can visit my website, and all this will probably be in the show notes, right? www.tripleshots.com, on Instagram, _S_shots. It's all in there. But if you want to work with me, I am predominantly in the Atlanta and Savannah area, but I am looking to expand. So please, please, please do not feel like if you don't live in my same city that we still can't work together, because that is not the case. And what I offer to people is, I want to help you elevated content that will be consistent. So what I say is, it's got to be authentic to you, has to be audacious, has to be amazing content, and it's on a consistent, because as we know right now, consistency is key. Content is for your social media, for your website, for whatever you have going on right now. And my subscription service does not limit you to just headshots and portrait sessions. If you have events, I cover events. If you have products, I cover products. It's not limited to just one person. If you have a team, you could bring your whole team to our sessions. It comes with planning. It comes with content planning and creation. It comes with just whatever, any form of knowledge that I have for my 5+ years of marketing and branding. I am your resource, and I'm here for all of my clients. So if you want to pick my brain, if you want to run things past me, if you need me to connect you with other specialists, I'm that girl. And so when I go into business with you, you don't just get my camera, you get all of me. And that's what I offer people right now. And I'm so excited to partner with more businesses in this upcoming year. That's really what my focus is right now, is getting my business owners that are working with me, getting them elevated, and then we'll see what the future brings. Maybe public speaking, maybe your girl will have a course or a class or something. We'll see.
Oh, book.
Open to it all.
Yes. Well, thank you. It's such a special bond that we have, being each other's first in some capacities, with you helping us launch, and with us launching your speaking career. We're just going to claim that. We will be sure to have people follow you, check the episode guide for the links, follow on Instagram, and please just take it from all of us and invest in your business, invest in yourself, and continue telling that story. So thanks so much, Sean. And you're always a part of our 10K community here at I Come As One.
Thank you. I'm so happy. And thank you all of you, from Sean to Fatima to Kristen to Lauren. You all have been a class act since the first day that we met. And I just really appreciate what you guys are doing on a whole nother level, other than just this podcast, what you represent, what you are, your goals, and who you have in mind. You're not only keeping just one type of person in mind, you're thinking about the whole conglomerate of women, of people of color, just in general, and of people from all different type of backgrounds. So I really appreciate y'all for what y'all are doing. And I will be promoting it and telling everybody about it.
Thank you.
Yes.